What if I told you the world has always been chaos? Not sometimes, not lately, always. From the moment breath was drawn into the lungs of the first human, the world has been unpredictable, unfair, and unrelenting. It does not weep for your struggle. It does not apologize for your pain. It simply is, and it never stops moving. And in the middle of that storm, some break, but others rise. So what separates the broken from the unshaken? Is it strength? Is it intelligence? Is it privilege? No. It's perspective. It's how you see the chaos. Because the Stoics knew something most of the world keeps forgetting. You do not get to choose the wind, but you do get to set the sail. You cannot control what happens. You cannot rewrite the past. You cannot stop the storm from coming. But you can always, always control what it means to you. And that changes everything. While the world screams for comfort, they trained for discomfort. While others begged for mercy, they built fortresses out of discipline. They didn't pray for an easier road. They prayed for a stronger spine. They didn't chase applause. They chased inner command. They stared into the fire and didn't curse it. They thanked it. Thanked it for the heat. Thanked it for the resistance. Thanked it for the chance to be forged instead of forgotten. Because life, real life, is not a place for the pampered. It is not designed to keep you safe. It is not meant to hand you guarantees. It's a battleground. A ruthless, silent battlefield where the war is waged inside your chest, inside your mind, every single day. A war of fear versus focus, desire versus discipline, reaction versus reason. And only those who command themselves, not once, not sometimes, but daily, stand a chance of surviving with their soul intact. This is what the Stoics mastered. Not just endurance, not just patience, but the sacred art of choosing how to suffer, choosing how to respond, choosing who to be when life gives you no reason to keep going. That is the wisdom that built warriors. Let me show you why. Pain is not the enemy. We've been lied to. From the moment we could walk, we were taught to flinch at discomfort. Avoid what hurts. Stay where it's soft. Seek shelter. Numb the ache. Escape the moment. But the Stoics saw through that lie. They didn't run from pain. They didn't medicate it. They invited it in, sat it down at the table, looked it in the eye and said, "Teach me." Because they knew what most people never learn. Pain is not punishment. It's purification. The world isn't trying to break you. It's trying to expose you. Trying to carve away the lies, the ego, the weakness, so that something real can remain. Every flinch, a missed opportunity. Every time you numb instead of endure, you rob yourself of a lesson only pain can teach. Because pain is nature's scalpel, and only those willing to bleed can be reborn. You've been conditioned to see pain as the enemy, but that's the illusion. It's not the pain that breaks you. It's the resistance to it, the panic, the fear, the attempt to run. The more you flinch, the weaker you become. The more you resist, the tighter the chains wrap around your mind. Because when you fear pain, you obey it. You make it your master. But the Stoic doesn't kneel. They understand something deeper. Pain reveals truth. It strips away the masks, the fake confidence, the comfort-born delusions. It tells you who you really are, without the spotlight, without the likes, without the applause, just you and the fire. And that's where the transformation begins. When you're in pain, really in it, You meet the edge of yourself. The fragile version of you starts to crumble. The ego shatters. The noise fades. And all that's left is the raw material. The foundation. The truth. Pain tells you what you lack. What you've been avoiding. What parts of your spirit are still flammable. Too weak to withstand the heat. And that's exactly why the Stoics sought it. Not recklessly, but deliberately. They put themselves in hard places because they knew growth doesn't come from ease. It comes from fire. So stop asking for the path to be smooth. Stop asking for your enemies to go easy. Stop asking for the storms to pass. Start asking for something that matters. Ask for strength. Ask for awareness. Ask for clarity that only comes when your back is against the wall and no one's coming to save you. You want to be a weapon? Then stop hiding from the forge. Because fire doesn't destroy the iron. It tempers it. It makes it stronger, sharper, more precise. And you are no different. Pain is not your enemy. It is your sculptor, your revealer, your rite of passage. So next time the ache comes, physical, mental, spiritual, don't curse it. Lean in. Welcome it like the Stoics did. Not with arrogance, but with honor. Because pain is not here to end you. It's here to unlock you. Emotions are not commands. You feel angry? Good. Let it pass through you like fire through a forge. Don't grip it like a sword you don't know how to use. You feel fear? Let it rise. Let it sharpen your awareness. But never, never let it paralyze you. Because emotions are not commands. They're signals, not dictators. They are meant to be heard, not obeyed. And if you forget that, if you start treating every emotion like divine instruction, you will become a puppet to your lowest self. You will react instead of respond. You will destroy relationships, abandon goals, sabotage your path, and then wonder why your life feels like a storm you can't escape. The Stoics didn't suppress their emotions. They mastered them. Not because they were robotic, not because they lacked feeling, but because they understood something most people never even consider. Clarity is higher than comfort, and freedom begins when your reason leads, not your impulses. They didn't worship every passing emotion. They watched it like a hawk watches prey. Anger was treated like a wild horse, acknowledged, respected, but never given control of the reins. Sadness was accepted, but not allowed to dictate their actions. Fear was faced, but not obeyed. That's not emotional suppression. That's emotional sovereignty. You're not here to be a slave to your moods. You're not some feather blowing in the wind of your feelings. You are a sovereign. You are the ruler of your internal kingdom. And just like any ruler, you will hear from the crowd, from the doubters, the screamers, the cowards. But if you let every voice that yells in your court sway your decisions, you'll have no throne left to sit on. Emotions are passengers. Let them ride. Let them scream in the back seat if they must. But do not let them take the wheel. Because the moment they do, your destiny becomes a demolition derby of regret. Let me tell you what real strength looks like. It's not never feeling anger. It's feeling it fully and still choosing discipline. It's not the absence of fear. It's walking forward in spite of it. Your heart pounding, your palms sweating, but your will untouchable. It's not refusing to cry. It's knowing when to weep and when to wage war. Because there are moments in life when everything around you collapses. And if you don't have command of your own soul, you will collapse with it. The world will test you. It will bait you with outrage. It will seduce you into emotional impulsiveness. It will throw gasoline on your every insecurity and dare you to explode. But a Stoic doesn't explode. A Stoic doesn't react. A Stoic calculates, reflects, breathes, and then strikes when the moment matters. Why? Because they understand this immortal truth. He who controls his emotions controls his reality. So if you're here to win, to rise, to lead, start now. Govern yourself like a kingdom under siege. Not with panic, not with denial, with strategy, with clarity, with steel in your eyes and stillness in your chest. Because the storms will come. But when your throne is forged in discipline, no wind can blow you off it. Control the inner world, and you conquer the outer. There's a brutal truth most people spend their entire lives avoiding. You are not in control of the world. You never were. The weather doesn't ask your permission. People will lie to your face and love you today, only to turn on you tomorrow. The markets crash, plans fail, bodies break. Everything outside of you is either a weapon, a storm, or a trap. And if your peace is tied to any of it, you're already lost. You don't get to control the terrain, but you do get to control the warrior that walks it. You see, inside, you is the only fortress that cannot be stormed, unless you leave the gate unlocked. Your thoughts, your focus, your discipline, your interpretation of events. That's your domain. That's your battlefield. The world might throw fire, but only you decide if you let it burn down your mind. The Stoics understood this perfectly. While most people waste their lives trying to rearrange the chaos around them, chasing approval, dodging blame, begging fate to ease up, the Stoic did something much more dangerous. They turned inward. They built walls of reason, floors of perspective, ceilings of restraint, not to hide from life, but to withstand it. Here's the truth most people choke on. If you can't master what's inside, you will always be at the mercy of what's outside. You'll be a puppet to praise, a slave to triggers, a victim of weather, opinion, betrayal, traffic, failure, silence. But when the inner world is fortified, you become immune to circumstance. People can betray you. Let them. You remain still. Fortune can abandon you. Let it. You adapt. The crowd can crown you one day and crucify you the next. Let them. Because your peace was never for sale to begin with. Control does not mean force. It means choice. You can't stop the emotion from rising, but you can choose your response. You can't stop the storm from hitting, but you can choose how to stand in the rain. The weak man reacts. The wise one reflects. And the warrior, they respond with precision. They don't waste time shouting at the thunder. They sharpen their sword in silence and move with the storm, not against it. Most people try to conquer the outer world. They want to bend reality to their will, control people, control timing, control outcomes. But that's a fool's errand. The Stoic knows the outer world will always resist. So instead, they do what only the disciplined can. They rule themselves. And in doing so, they win the game no matter the outcome. Their peace, untouchable. Their focus, unshakable. Their will, unbreakable. Because when you master the inner world, the outer world becomes irrelevant noise. You don't have to dodge every arrow when the mind is armored. You don't have to chase every reward when the soul is anchored. You don't have to explain yourself when your conviction is carved in stone. So build the fortress, brick by brick, with thought, discipline, and relentless self-honesty. Because if you don't govern your mind, Something else will. And when that happens, your peace is no longer yours. It belongs to the next setback, the next insult, the next flicker of bad luck. But if you rule within, then you walk through fire untouched. You lose the world and still stand tall. You become the one thing the storm cannot break, a sovereign. Memento mori, remember death. The Stoics meditated on death, not because they were obsessed with the end, but because they were obsessed with meaning. They whispered it every day. Memento mori, remember, you are mortal, not as some poetic mantra, not as a depressing thought, but as the most brutal and liberating truth the human mind can hold. Because when you hold death in your mind, when you stare at it, unblinking, everything false begins to burn away. All your petty concerns, ash. All your fake identities, vapor. All your excuses, exposed. Because the clock is ticking, and no one escapes it. You will die. I will die. Everyone you've ever known. Every face you've ever loved. Every enemy. Every hero. Every voice that ever echoed in history. All of them, gone. That's not morbid. That's reality. And once you accept that, truly accept it, you don't become depressed. You become dangerous. Because the lie of permanence is the root of all cowardice. It's what makes people waste time like they have an infinite supply. It's what convinces them they can put off greatness until later. It's what seduces them into arguing over crumbs, while the feast of life rots in front of them. But when you know, deep in your bones, that the end is not just possible, but promised, you stop living like a ghost, and you start living like a warrior with one mission: to leave nothing undone. Memento mori destroys the illusion of safety. You are not safe. You never were. That breath you just took, that heartbeat, you don't own the next one. You've just been renting time on a contract with no expiration date. So the question is not if the end is coming. It's what you'll do before it gets here. When death is on your mind, you stop hiding. You stop tiptoeing. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't matter and living a life that doesn't satisfy you. You stop trying to be immortal and start trying to be impactful. When you remember death, the trivial becomes intolerable. You won't spend your time chasing the shallow praise of strangers or debating fools on screens. You won't keep betraying your soul for comfort, clout, or convenience. Because when you know the sands are running out, you stop building sandcastles and start building legacies. You write the book, you make the call, you cut the toxic, you risk the failure, you speak the truth, you make the move, you go, not someday, not soon. Now, because the Stoics understood, time is not a guarantee, it's a gift. And most people throw it away like they have a backup life waiting for them once they're done wasting this one. They don't. Memento mori does not shrink your ambition, it sharpens it. Because now, every second has weight. Every breath has purpose. Every day becomes a battleground where you fight to leave something behind that death can't erase. And here's the paradox. When you meditate on death, you stop being afraid of it. Because you've already made peace with it. You've walked beside it. You've learned from it. And now, it's no longer a monster hiding in the shadows. It's a motivator whispering in your ear, do not waste this day. So don't fear death. Fear dying with your music still in you. Fear the regret of unlived potential. Fear becoming a ghost while your body is still breathing. But if you remember memento mori, if you carry it like a blade behind your back, you will walk through life differently. Not with fear, not with recklessness, but with presence, with clarity, with the kind of focus that makes cowards uncomfortable and the world take notice. Because you're not here to live forever. You're here to make every second count as if you won't. Because you won't. Amor fati. Love your fate. This is where most people snap. They can survive hardship for a while. They can tolerate misfortune if they grit their teeth. They can endure pain until it overstays its welcome. But love it? That's where the crowd thins. That's where the soft-hearted break. That's where the world filters out the weak from the forged. Because to love your fate, to look life straight in the eye after it's gutted your plans, shattered your expectations, buried your comfort, and still say thank you. That's not delusion. That's power. Raw, untouchable, unshakable power. Amor fati isn't about pretending you enjoy suffering. It's about realizing the suffering has purpose. It's the Stoics' way of turning pain into wisdom, turning betrayal into clarity, turning failure into fire. It's not denial. It's domination. Because what if, just what if, everything you're running from, everything you're questioning, everything that didn't go your way was the way? That's the question most never dare ask. They label their pain as unfair, their failure as tragic, their delay as punishment. But the Stoic flips the script. They say, this too is good. Not because they're broken, but because they've reached the highest form of psychological warfare, weaponized acceptance. They see life as a battlefield where every blow is information, every loss is leverage, every setback is sacred training for what comes next. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is meaningless. Every bruise becomes a blueprint. When you embrace amor fati, you stop negotiating with reality. You stop asking, why me? You start asking, what now? You stop resisting the detour and start studying the map. You stop wishing the mountain wasn't there and start sharpening your axe. Amor fati is ruthless in its simplicity. If this is my path, then it is mine to master. No flinching, no bargaining, no dragging your feet through the dirt. If life throws a curve, you lean into it. If you get cut, you bleed forward. If you lose everything, you keep walking with your chin up and your fists clenched. This is not passive surrender. This is offensive resilience. It's building so much inner strength that no external chaos can dictate your direction. Because here's the dark truth. Most people think they're tough until the universe doesn't listen, until the plan fails, until life ignores their timeline and serves them something they never ordered. That's when they fall apart. That's when they curse the sky. That's when they quit. But not you. Not if you carry amor fati like a blade tucked in your soul. Because the warrior doesn't need perfect conditions. They become the storm that adapts to any terrain. To love your fate is to realize you didn't come here to have it easy. You came here to become something that cannot be broken. So if the path winds, you walk it anyway. If the weight increases, you get stronger. If everything falls apart, you build from the rubble and never look back. This is the power of amor fati. It turns tears into focus. It turns scars into strategy. It turns misfortune into mastery. You stop whining for a lighter load and start building a heavier spine. So ask yourself, what if everything you hated about your life was the very thing that would make you unstoppable? What if the pain wasn't a mistake, but an invitation? Will you reject it and remain a victim? Or will you rise and become a weapon? The choice is always yours. walk the Stoic path, if you tattoo amor fati into your way of being, then no fate can break you, no failure can define you, no fire can consume you, because you'll walk it all, with fire in your eyes, and victory carved into your soul. Now you understand. This world doesn't bend for you. It won't pause for your healing. It won't cushion your fall. But the Stoics never asked it to. They didn't beg for mercy. They built inner fire. And now, so must you. Pain is not the enemy. It's the crucible. It reveals the parts of you still clinging to weakness. It cuts you open, not to destroy you, but to make room for strength. Emotions are not commands. You feel them, sure, but you do not bow to them. They scream, but they don't steer. You govern your soul like a kingdom, even when it's under siege. Control the inner world, and you conquer the outer, because the storms won't stop. But if your mind is fortified, the lightning only sharpens your resolve. Memento mori. Remember death. Whisper it like a weapon. You are running out of time, and that's exactly why you must move. Speak. Strike. Live like your days are numbered, because they are. And amor fati, the crown jewel of Stoic strength. Love your fate. All of it. Not just the blessings, but the betrayal, the delay, the detour. Not as punishment, but as preparation. Not as suffering, but as sacred fire meant to forge you. So now what? Now you walk. Not as someone waiting for life to ease up, but as someone who has trained for war and welcomes the battle. You don't need applause. You don't need the perfect conditions. You don't need anyone's permission to become something undeniable. You need only this: the discipline to endure, the clarity to stay unmoved, and the fire to carry it all until your last breath. That is Stoicism, not a philosophy, a code of war. And if you live by it, you will not just survive this life, you will conquer it.